You're tuned into Elite Leader Insights, where we bring you bite-sized breakthroughs in just minutes a week.
Today's idea comes straight from the Elite Leader Insights newsletter, where we lean into Donald Kunkel's weekly article into real, applicable leadership growth.
It's all grounded in the foundations of influence framework and built for leaders like you.
Let's dive in.
So let's start with this really provocative question Donald Kunkel puts right out there in the article. Would you follow your leader if they didn't have the title? It's not just theoretical, is it? It really cuts right to the heart of why leadership development, despite, decades of trying and huge investments, still feels like it's, falling short sometimes.
Yeah.
It points to what he calls a systemic gap, how we approach actually growing leaders. It suggests it's more than just the authority from a title, right? It's something deeper, something you earn.
That's exactly where it gets really interesting. You see, organizations globally, they've poured just massive amounts of money into leadership programs. Billions.
Billions. Wow.
Yeah, billions. Comprehensive models, executive training. I mean, it's been a huge, sustained effort over decades. But then you look at the actual data, the real-world results, and the same kind of frustrating patterns just keep showing up year after year. It's almost bewildering how little things seem to change fundamentally despite all that spending.
So a serious disconnect between the effort going in and what's coming out. What do those patterns look like? What are the hard numbers telling us?
Well, the numbers are pretty stark, actually. Take DDI Development Dimensions International. In 2023, they reported that a huge 77% of organizations are still reporting a significant leadership gap.
77%? That's almost 4 out of 5.
Exactly. It's a really pervasive problem. And then, looking ahead, Gartner's 2023 research found that only, get this, 11% of HR leaders believe they have a strong bench of leadership-ready talent.
Only 11%. That's concerning for the future pipeline.
It really is. Think about it. Less than 1 in 10 feel truly confident about who's coming up next.
Wow. So a gap today and not much confidence about filling it tomorrow. That paints a pretty bleak picture.
It does, and it doesn't stop there. For those who do step into leadership roles, the Center for Creative Leadership, CCL, they highlighted in 2023 that over half, more than 50% of new leaders fail within their first 18 months.
Fail how? Like they quit or?
Yeah, they either leave or they're let go or sometimes just quietly moved out of that leadership spot. The cost, personally and for the organization, is just immense. And it's not just internal stuff either. Trust in leadership generally is declining. Edelman's 2024 data points to things like poor communication, low empathy, inconsistency. Those are the top worries employees have. So the workforce is feeling this gap directly. It's eroding trust.
It sounds like it's a problem everywhere, even in places you'd expect to have it figured out. You mentioned the U.S. Department of Defense, right?
I did, yeah. Even an organization like the DoD, incredibly structured and focused, they've publicly acknowledged these issues. Their FY 2025 report mentioned enduring challenges in recruiting, developing, and retaining personnel, despite years of updated strategies.
So even they struggle.
Right. And they specifically called out gaps in training, communication, and leadership climate. So this isn't just a corporate thing. It's fundamental, which brings us back to that big question.
Why? After all this time, all this money, what's actually going wrong? Why aren't we getting better leaders out of all this?
That is the million-dollar question. And the article suggests, interestingly, it's not necessarily a lack of effort. Maybe it's more about a failure of alignment.
Alignment. Alignment with what?
Alignment with what leadership science and organizational research actually tell us works. So here's the key takeaway from the sources. Kunkel points out 5 big reasons why development efforts often fall short. It's basically this gap between knowing leadership concepts and actually doing the behaviors.
Okay, let's break those down. What's the first reason?
The first one is, it's fundamental. We teach concepts, not behaviors. Think about it. Most programs, they mean well, but they focus on these really broad, kind of abstract traits, like leaders need visionary thinking, or they should be empowering.
Right, things that sound good on paper.
Exactly. But what does a visionary thinker actually do day to day? What specific actions show empowerment? McKinsey's research confirms this. There's often this huge gap between the big idea and the concrete, observable actions that actually build trust or move a team forward. We tell people what to be, but not really how to consistently do it.
And it's not just what we teach, but how, right?
Yeah.
That leads to the second point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The second reason is training is often event-based, not habit-forming. We send leaders off to, a 2-day workshop or maybe a week-long course.
Classic leadership retreat.
Right. They get this burst of information, maybe feel inspired, but then back to the daily grind. And without that sustained coaching, reflection, ways to practice, studies, like one from Harvard Business Review, show those new skills just kind of evaporate within weeks.
Yeah, the inspiration fades fast without reinforcement, like expecting to run a marathon after one training session.
Exactly. It just doesn't stick. Which connects directly to the third problem. We tend to promote performers, not people leaders.
The classic promote the best salesperson to sales manager trap.
Precisely. You take your top engineer, your star individual contributor.
Yeah.
They hit all their targets, technically brilliant, and they seem like the obvious choice for leadership. But often, they get promoted without real training in, say, emotional intelligence or handling conflict, or just basic communication skills needed for leading others.
So the skills don't transfer automatically.
Not at all. Gartner highlighted this.
Yeah.
You end up with managers who are amazing at the technical side, but really struggle with the softer side.
Yeah.
Influencing, motivating, connecting with their team. Those are totally different skill sets.
Okay, so they get promoted, maybe without the right people skills. Then how do they know if they're improving? That sounds like the fourth point.
You got it. The fourth reason is feedback is often rare, vague, or just missing. Leaders, especially new ones, desperately need specific feedback on their behaviors. What's working, what's not? How are people actually perceiving their actions? But usually, feedback is either non-existent or it's that annual review thing that's way too general.
Needs improvement in communication. Helpful.
Right. Totally unhelpful. And organizationally, DDI found companies often don't even track if their leadership programs are actually changing behavior. If you're not measuring it, how do you know if it's working?
Good point. So concepts, not behaviors, event-based training, promoting the wrong skills, lack of feedback. What's the fifth piece?
This one's arguably the most critical, and it's something Kunkel really emphasizes. Influence isn't adequately part of the curriculum. Most leadership models focus a lot on what leaders know, what they think, strategy, decision-making, intellect.
The head stuff.
Yeah, the head stuff. But they often miss the crucial part. How leaders connect, how they communicate that vision, how they adapt their approach to actually move people, to gain trust, inspire action. Don Kunkel says it directly in his book, The Foundations of Influence. Leadership isn't a knowledge test, it's a behavior test.
A behavior test, I like that.
And he adds that influence is the behavior that kind of holds everything else together.
Yeah.
It's the glue. Without it, even the smartest strategy can just fall flat.
Okay, so those 5 gaps, they really highlight a bigger truth, don't they? Like you said, the insight from the article is that many programs might inform, give you knowledge, but they don't actually transform behavior.
Exactly.
Lasting change needs more. It needs a system, something repeatable, to build habits, boost self-awareness, and turn feedback, even if it's vague, into actual growth.
And that's exactly where the article points towards a different way, referencing systems that align with Kunkel's philosophy, like the TECCA Influence System. It's framed as a potential solution because it zeroes in on 5 specific core influence behaviors, things leaders can actually practice and get measurably better at.
So moving away from abstract ideas to tangible actions.
Precisely. It's about making influence something you can actively work on.
That sounds crucial. It's not just a one-time thing then, it's about continuous improvement. How does a system like TECCA support that? And what does the wider research say about why these approaches work?
Well, it's definitely built for ongoing growth. The TECCA system, as the sources describe it, helps leaders through things like ongoing reflection, using a tool called the Power Profile to see themselves clearly and track progress. It also encourages safe coaching conversations.
Safe meaning?
Safe meaning an environment where leaders can be honest, try new things, maybe stumble a bit, without fearing negative consequences. And it uses multi-source or 360-degree feedback to catch those blind spots we all have. It's really grounded in building trust and self-awareness for sustainable development.
Okay, let's make this real then. The article points to evidence-based solutions that seem to line up perfectly with this kind of approach Kunkel advocates for. It's not just theory, right? There's research behind it.
Oh, absolutely. The research consistently shows that lasting leadership development needs more than just delivering content. It needs clarity on behaviors, continuous feedback, and coaching. So the first evidence-based solution mirroring that TECCA idea is behavioral anchoring over abstract traits.
Meaning focus on actions, not ideas.
Exactly. Leaders learn way better when we focus on observable actions, not fuzzy competencies. Think about Daniel Goleman's work on emotional intelligence. It's about defining what empathy actually looks like in a conversation or what specific steps make up active listening. Researchers like Kunkel have shown you need to know what to do, not just what concept to aim for.
That makes total sense. Translate the what into the how. And for the how to actually stick, you need reinforcement, right? You can't just tell someone, be more influential.
Precisely. Which brings us to the second solution, consistent coaching and feedback loops. We already talked about how single workshops often fall flat. But ongoing coaching, that's far more effective, as research by DeRue and Wellman showed back in 2009. It gives that continuous, personalized support needed for skills to really become second nature.
Like the difference between a lecture on golf and having a coach actually watch your swing.
Exactly that. That real-time feedback and adjustment makes all the difference.
And getting different viewpoints on your swing or your leadership must be key too.
Absolutely crucial. That's the third solution. Multi-source, 360 degrees feedback. This is so powerful because it helps leaders see how their own perception lines up with how their team, their peers, their boss actually experience them. Research from Atwater and Brett highlighted how vital this is for uncovering blind spots and boosting self-awareness. It's like having multiple mirrors showing you the full picture.
So building real connections and getting an honest view, that sounds like it connects directly to trust.
Very strongly. The fourth solution is a clear focus on high-trust relationships. Gallup's research from 2022 is pretty definitive here. Leaders who actively build trust simply outperform their peers. Period.
In what ways?
Better retention, higher team performance, more positive work environment, all the key metrics.
Yeah.
Trust isn't just a nice-to-have soft skill. It's really foundational for effective leadership.
Okay, and the last piece, making sure there's a space where all this learning can actually happen.
Yes. Number 5, and it's critical. Psychologically safe practice environments. Amy Edmondson talks a lot about this in her work, like in The Fearless Organization. Things like simulations, role-playing, even just tough coaching conversations, they work best when leaders feel safe. Safe to experiment, to mess up, to get feedback without fearing judgment or punishment.
So low risk is key for real learning.
Absolutely essential. Without that safety net, people just won't take the risks needed to truly grow and change their behavior.
Okay, so putting it all together, what's the big takeaway? Donald Kunkel's final thought in the article really seems to nail it. We don't have a leadership knowledge problem. We have a leadership execution problem. And here's where it gets really interesting for you listening right now. It suggests it's not that leaders lack potential or aren't smart enough. It's because, as we've discussed, so many of our systems just weren't designed to build influence. They weren't set up to bridge that gap between knowing and actually doing.
Yeah.
But when we shift the focus, when we start measuring what matters, focus on behaviors people can practice and make into habits, support them with feedback and a safe space, then leadership stops being this mystery and becomes a result you can actually build. So here's a quick recap of today's insight from the sources. Traditional leadership development often misses the mark. Why? Because it gets bogged down in abstract concepts instead of focusing on the actual actionable behaviors that build influence. Bridging that leadership gap really comes down to cultivating influence through specific practiced actions, backed up by continuous feedback and, crucially, a safe environment to grow ideas emphasized by Donald Kunkel and supported by solid research.
Thank you for joining us this week for our latest Elite Leaders Insights Deep Dive.
And hey, if this discussion sparked some thoughts about your own leadership or how to build influence, you might find exploring the TECCA Influence Assessment valuable, as the author suggests. It's offered by the Elite Leadership Center over at eliteleadershipcenter.com. We understand it's free for a limited time right now, and it gives you a quick, personalized 6-page report with growth prompts to help you kind of zero in on areas to strengthen your leadership. And really, if anything we talked about made you think, leave us a comment. We genuinely want to hear your thoughts.
Until next week, remember, leadership is influence in action every day, in every relationship. Let's build it together.